I go to the here, continue, and I'm going to write it down here, just briefly, okay? So let me explain. So this is about module align. Okay, and so this question corresponding to this, since it is the alignment problem, so the problem formulation, right? Every time when we talk about algorithm, of course, check the problem formulation to see which kind of problem they want us to figure out, and from a computational perspective. So this is a given two graph, and each graph is corresponding to the protein-protein interaction network, one type of biology network, right? That's the matter which network is corresponding to is two graphs. And here we use G1 to represent, and we use G2 so I don't know, it seems the speed is not so good. Okay, and this alignment would like us to find out. So alignment gave this one to find alignment, and this is the best alignment. Find the best alignment, and this alignment. Okay, this alignment corresponding to one type of function, which corresponding to a function, right? Which corresponds to injection function. So each alignment corresponding to an injection function. And this injection function, for example, the G, and the G corresponding G is function and map V1 to V2, right? So this corresponds to alignment, but we need to find the best alignment. And in regular, for each alignment, which corresponding to each corresponds to one injection function, and this function will map V1 to V2. Corresponding to, you have a function, for example, you have a U, then you find the mapping function is V, right? And such that, so what you have the V is corresponding to the function, let's write down here, V is equal to GU. If U, which is belong to V1, is mapped to V, which is in V2, right? So this is what they talk about, the injection function. And also here it is, they wanted to find the best alignment corresponding to, they need to define the score for this mapping, right? Just beware this computational problem. So this is an optimization problem. We need to find the best alignment among all this kind of injection function G, right? Okay, good. So please interrupt me at any time. So in this paper, what they do it is, and for any protein interaction network, and for example, I'll give you one example. So for example, take a look at this graph. This graph, they include the two types of proteins, and the green one corresponding to human protein, and this red one corresponding to coronavirus protein. This is the interaction between the corona and human proteins. So you may find out, if you take a look at the main part here, this main part here, right? And you may find out in this main part, many of things, many of proteins, many of this green, this specific green, this part. Take a look at this one, right? And you will find, and in this part, some proteins, they almost connect to each other. So almost this one interact each other. And such that, so the author claim, if a protein, they form the module, form the cluster, they formed in some way, they strongly connect to each other, and they are more functionally conserved. They are more likely they function similar to each other. And such that when they have, this is one graph, right? If you also see another graph, for example, human with influenza, right? And they do have some similarity from the network perspective, right? Or you check the specific another animal from the snake with the snake coronavirus in the snake species, how similar they are, and such that you can imagine in the another network they may have something very similar to that, and they connect to each other, right? And so in that case, it is even if the similarity score, even if these two objects, right? Even if these two objects maybe not so similar to each other, right? For example, this guy, right? Maybe this guy not so similar to this guy, but since they are staying, this whole thing here, they form a very strong connected components. And in such case, they are supposed to have more probability, be similar to one of the proteins here. If they also a cluster, if they also very strongly connected, right? And such that no matter this one, how this one grow, right? For example, this is, let's give more intuitive, example. So you have an apple, you have grapes, right? And apple and grapes, or apple and banana, right? Each load, this load here, which is banana, this load is banana. And this load here, which is for some reason, WebEx deleted that. And so this load here, which corresponds to apple, and the load here, what you have the load here, one of the load here, which corresponds to banana. And the banana, of course, this banana and the apple, they are not similar, right? They are not similar, but since they are working in the cluster, and the banana working in this cluster, right? And this apple working in this cluster, and such that, so once they stay in the cluster, and in some way you can give more weight on the vortex in these clusters. So corresponding to the similarity score between these two, even if they are not so similar, compared to this guy, right? And so this is the apple, and this is the banana, and this is apple, right? This is apple. And since, let's say if you want to check, so when you check the similarity score, this one more similar to this guy. But this one, although the similarity score is not so high, similarity from the sequence perspective is not so high. But since this one involved in the cluster, and such that they can claim they are more similar, this part is more similar to this one. Even if one is an apple, one is a banana. So this is some very creative things in this paper. They said in this paper, they want to check the similarity score, not only based on the sequence, but more, based on the module-based similarity. So this module-based similarity. And what the author do? Let me explain. I go back to this paint, and the author's contribution. Let's say first step, right? And the first step, the author want to find out. First step to calculate sequence functional topological similarity between any pair UV any pair UV and U from V1, right? And V from V2. So we don't care about it in this step. We don't care about there could be map or not could be map. But first we need to check the similarity between these two. And between the any vortex between here and one of the graph here, right? So let's just draw here. I think we already have this one. Yeah. So so you check every pair and one vortex from here, one vortex from here. And corresponding to, you want to get the matrix. You want to get the similarity matrix. You want to do calculation and get the similarity matrix. And this matrix here corresponding to, this is V1 and this is V2, right? So for example, you have U1 and U2 and you have UN. And you have V1, V2 and VM, right? So, and such that, this is U1, right? And such that, this is, you make the matrix and each column, each row, and corresponding different one, right? And for this one, for example, right? If this one, this is the matrix A, corresponding to alignment A. So this is the AIJ, right? And this AIJ corresponding to similarity, and the similarity score. This similarity score came from the sequence similarity, functional topology similarity, right? So this score is equal to what we have, the U, is UI and VJ, right? So this corresponding to this matrix. Corresponding to this step, they wanted to make this matrix, right? And how to also make that first step? And they use the HCA ML. This corresponding to make a hierarchy co-clustering. So I will not go to the details about this algorithm, but I will show you what is the results of this one and what is the meaning of this one. Okay. Okay, so the clustering, how many of you know about clustering? Yes, right? Many of you have idea about that. Yes? Yes? Yeah, that's very good. So corresponding to, for each graph, right? Let's say we already drew this graph or not. Maybe we didn't draw graph. Let's say we needed to draw a graph. At least you have idea about that. So for each graph, they make this hierarchy clustering corresponding to, let's say, what does meaning for that? And the good example is this graph. This graph will be good example, right? The idea here it is, so each graph we have V1 and we have V2. In this step, V1 of G1, right? We have V2 of G2. And this idea it is to cluster these proteins and such that make C1 and C2. And C1 corresponding to C1 corresponding to, let me explain to you. And C1 consists with, this uses the statistical method to work on that. So this is CL1, CL2, and CL maybe K. And C2 equal to CL prime corresponding to different cluster because it emphasizes a different graph. And this is CLT prime. We write in this way, which corresponding to, let's say we give you a graph, right? We'll give you two graphs. And one graph, let's draw this way. This is based on the similarity score. Let's say one graph just like this one, right? So you have V1 and V2, V3, V4, V5, V6, V7. And through this hierarchical clustering, they have different clustering method people can use. And this also they use the specific, hierarchical agglometric, clustering. The idea here, finally, they form a hierarchical structure. Okay. And finally, they have this one, right? And so, when they have this one, what is corresponding to? It's corresponding to, for example, what you had V1 and V2 are very close, and V3, V4 are very close. And what you have this, compared to this one, let's change this graph a little bit. The reason it is this one a little bit. And so you have V6, V7 are very close. And then so you have this V1, 2, 3, this is 4, right? This is 4. This should be 4. This should be 5, right? And so each leaf here, each leaf node in this cluster, in this tree structure, leaf nodes, in what they have the HCA ML tree. This is the also claim. And the leaf nodes in this tree are vertices in graph. So if we see this is a graph, right? This is a tree. So we use this procedure. We use the HCA ML, this method. It's just one of the type of hierarchical clustering. And so you make a tree. In this tree, leaf nodes corresponding to each is vertex. And here, this one corresponding to cluster 1. And this is cluster 2, cluster 3, cluster 4, cluster 5. And the lower level, right? If we see this level starting from here to here, right? The height, right? So if we check from the bottom to the top, and which corresponding to each cluster, if they are in the top, in the bottom, it includes the next vertices compared to this one, right? Corresponding to CL cluster 3 include more vertex compared to CL4. And the vertices in the same cluster, they are more similar. And for example, V6, V7 is more similar than each other compared to V6 with V5. So this is a hierarchy cluster. in the author, in this paper, they mention they drag and drop and make sure all this tree, the leaves in the same level. And then they cut this tree. They cut this tree in the way they only hold for this one, they cut it out. And such that they do have, once they cut it out, they only keep the lower level trees, right? So corresponding to the keep the CL1, CL2, CL3, and CL4. This one, they will be cut out. And such that, in this case, K is equal to 4, right? In this case. And also do the same job on the graph 2. Then you got another cluster, right? Another class, group of clusters. Use the same procedure. It's just like they, check the protein-protein relationship from the hierarchical structure, from the topology structure, and group them. And once they group them based on the distance, close distance, put one cluster, and they check the distance between every group. And then you can imagine if this matrix, definitely they can draw like the tree structure to say who is who. You can say, if you think about the distance between the V1 and V2, right? V1 and V3, V1 and V4. So this one, and also corresponding to the matrix, similarity matrix. But the author, because this one is other people's work, the author did more things on just to make this, hierarchical cluster. Just to make this similarity. This similarity include more. So this is something we want to check, right? The most important things we want to check. And for this one, how to make this hierarchy cluster, this is a very typical way. So if they provided this method, just use it. And in this project, we don't expect to change this cluster method. If you want, you can replace this cluster with another cluster to see the difference. But I think that is not a big contribution. Okay, so now I want to check, and since the author contribute on the make this guy elegant, right? They want to make this guy elegant. So now let's check, right? So first, the author did it is the cluster similarity. They check from this C1 and C2, and let's see here, right? So measure CLI, measure the similarity between of CLI and CL prime J, right? And we see CLI is from C1, capital C1, right? And corresponding to from the graph 1, right? And CL J prime, which is from capital C2. And from the graph 2, right? This step corresponding to calculate the similarity between any clusters. And each cluster corresponding to a subgroup of proteins, right? And such that the similarity score, the author claim that it is a cluster similarity between CL and CL prime J. And this is the I. And this is equal to what? Equal to all the vertices, the similarity, the summation of blast score. This blast score is the same as what we discussed, sequence alignment. This is exactly sequence alignment. I use U to represent the vertex, V to represent the vertex. So U belong to CLI. Right? And V belong to CL prime J, right? Because just as we show you, this is the CL, this one corresponding to the parent loads, right? And the vertex belong to these parent loads, right? So this is the U you compare, for example, you kind of one graph, you got this matrix, right? Got this hierarchical structure, hierarchical clustering. You have another graph and make another hierarchical clustering, and such that you have two this kind of tree, right? And based on its cutoff, this one have 4 these smaller clusters. Each cluster include multiple proteins, right? And the same thing here for C2, you have this one. And since this is C1 and C1 prime, and all the either is one, right? All of them is the group of proteins. So they check a similarity score. Let me write it down here. This is the similarity score. This is the similarity corresponding to sequence similarity. This is the same as what we discussed, the sequence and similarity. It's just say the author, they use the tool. This tool is the BLAST. And this is exactly from algorithm part. This is the sequence similarity score. This is the same as what we discussed, the longest common subsequence. We use dynamic programming, right? So the author, they use the tool. Tool is BLAST. The tool name is BLAST. So this reason the claim is BLAST score. For us, you just treat them as a sequence alignment. And after that, I need to use the different color. And then, so after that, it is divided by the CLI corresponding to normalize this score, because some cluster has a big size and some maybe have smaller. You want to make sure you get average similarity score. Doesn't matter, it's just normalized. Doesn't matter which one is bigger, which one is small, right? So this is a normalized cluster similarity score, right? So this is normalized. So this normalized cluster similarity. And you can treat this one to how to understand this one. So in my computer not so fast. So this reason I didn't say that. So I have to rewrite. So this is say appear in a double version. And so how to understand this one? You can understand it is the average. This is corresponding to average. This is corresponding to average protein to protein or vortex to vortex similarity in cluster pair. And such that different cluster pairs can be compared based on this score, right? This is the average protein-protein similarity. Doesn't matter how many protein pairs exist in this cluster pair. And so this is the average score. So, corresponding to, if this score is higher, right? The higher the cluster sim score, the higher this score, more likely if the higher cluster similarity score, more probability, more likely the cluster pair, the pair of the cluster, right? This is the paired cluster. Let me write it down. It should be paired cluster. Could be in similar module. This is the they call the module line. So this is the fourth step is calculate cluster similarity. And after the calculation cluster similarity, they come to check go to here, fill this one, right? So why the reason it is, you may find out, for example, this V6. V6 appear in two clusters. Can you see that? V6 appear in the two clusters. We say if they are in the different clusters, corresponding they have different type of the function. This is from the biology people claim, and also from computational problem side, it seems to make sense. So now this V6, they appear in the multiple clusters. Corresponding this guy maybe play very, very critical role. And so this reason, the author readjust that. The author readjust, they make calculate. The calculate, I need to use this kind of. And the calculator, they call the homology score. And corresponding to homology score, let's write it down here, right? So homology score is HS, homology. Homology corresponding to something almost the same as another thing, right? Homology, right? So for example, in the twin, right? The twins. And in the twins may be very similar to each other, right? So homology to each other, for example. Just like that, you can know. Okay, so the homology score of two protein, and this two protein, U is from V1, right? Capital V1, and V from capital V2, right? So this one, how do you calculate the similarity score between these two? Then in that case, you have to check which cluster it belongs to, and how many clusters it belongs to. And such that the author claim this is a summation of the cluster similarity of CLI and CLJ prime. If, and here, they even do not give the specific because that's not necessary, give the I and J. Okay. So this cluster CL1, right? And then so what corresponding to? Corresponding to the U, this is CL1, CL, which is belong to the C1, and the CL prime is belong to C2, right? It's these two clusters from different graph. And also the U is belong to CL and V belong to CL prime, right? And divided by, and actually we can take this one outside since there's not balance very well. I just write it down here. So times CL divided by C1, the size of C1 times the size of C2. Corresponding to, because here you consider the protein similarity, you want to check this guy, right? You want to check this guy. And this guy, you consider this SUI, VJ, you consider this one suppose consists of sequence similarity, right? And also plus S, the function-based similarity, plus topology-based similarity. So you need to consider different this kind of case you can put here, right? So this reason the authors, they count it one by one. They count it from different perspective. They consider that, right? And then so the first step, they make it to be different clusters from each graph. Right? So this graph, which is from G1, right? And this graph is from G2, right? And so this class is from G2. And so this reason, they say, okay, let's check this pair and check how similar this pair, how similar this cluster, check the each clusters, this U belong to and V belong to, and check how similar these two clusters could be, and that is to know U and V belong to. And after that is normalized by C1 times C2. The reason it is in the future that we need to consider with another different graphs, right? So they don't get normalized. Also, it corresponding to average. Average, cluster similarity, and this U and V belong to, right? Okay, good. So then, so they got this HS UV, and then so let me check for let me take a look at the paper. Yeah, it corresponds to this one, right? And then after that, that's very good. Then we go to the next step. Okay, and the next step, the also think about the AUV. Consider, since this one cluster sim, we consider two things in the cluster sim, right? You have two things consistent in the cluster sim, and one thing it is a sequence similarity. Because the cluster sim, if you remember, which is equal to summation of BLAST score, right? For each U and V, right? Did you remember, right? So this is summation of that divided by the sides, right? The CLI sides and the CLJ sides, right? So such that this one already included the sequence similarity, and also this one also included the functional module-based similarity. Right? Can you see that? So this the homology score between each U and V corresponding to two things, consist of two things: sequence similarity and the module similarity. They use cluster and make the modules, right? And after that, and also they want to finally they say the A. What do you want to calculate? AUV, right? Alignment between these two proteins is equal to alpha. Alpha is a balance parameter. It's a balance parameter alpha HS UV, and this HS same as a function here, plus 1 minus alpha TS UV. And TSUV is TSUV, right? We say HSUV, we already know. And TSUV, this is consideration from the topology side. Topology corresponding to the network structure. The network structure. Also corresponding to relationship structure in the graph, right? Relationship. Okay, so no, let's not nice. Just for some reason, the speed not fast. So this TSUV comes from what? This came through specific algorithm called the Hubble-Align. And in your side, you don't need to know about that, because time is very tight, schedule is very tight. So this corresponds to check the centrality of U and V, and and the score. So let me give you explanation for this one. This is from specific another algorithm. For example, you have this graph, right? And then, so let's say you have another graph. No, it's not very similar. I want to draw a different one. So let's say we use this color, right? Okay, so we want to align these two graphs. And then, so the score, let's say this is the U, this is the V. So the UV, the score of UV consists of the edges between each other, and also and how can you put the weights on each edges, right? That's a question. And so you may say maybe what it give the W weight. This may also give the weight. So the similarity score between the U and the V and corresponding to the similarity from the labels, right? So let's say TS UV. TS UV is equal to summation of all adjacent vertex. Let's say UI belong to adjacent U, and Vj belong to adjacent V, right? And the summation of the similarity TS UI and Vj. So, corresponding to the similarity from the labels, and also these labels, what is the labels similarity, right? So this is go to this one. So no, this one not finished. Then this paper is half a line. They wanted to calculate the importance of U and V. And how they calculate importance U and V? They say these two can align depending on how this importance of U and V can be aligned. So how they calculate the U and V? They have a specific score for example, for U, right? Let's check for U. U, the score for U is equal to the weight on U plus lambda, so it's some parameters. I think this part maybe this go to another paper. So in that case, many things got involved. I'm trying to think about how to make sure explain this one in a very briefly way. So this one is going to the U to V, right? And this is W U to V, and V is belong to adjacent U. So since they consider the importance of V of each vertex, so corresponding to this one is equal to the weight on the vertex plus the weight came from different edges. Now the question it is, what is this weight corresponding to, right? This weight, the weight WU is equal to if we delete the edges, and such that the weight from this one will be contributed to the here. So the importance of this one really depending on topologies here, right? Can you see that? So what is this step corresponding to, right? So this step is from another software, and this is to calculate the similarity between U and V, and the base, I'm sorry? Go ahead. Yes. So in the paper, you go to the paper. In the paper, one of the place they mention S. This I want to explain this S. Can you see that? Which the step here, right? The step here, right? So this one, right? S here corresponding to, let's see what is S corresponding to. S corresponding to score. You can treat S, I just want to say this S what corresponding to, right? So in this graph, you have W, you have edge weight, and you have edge weight for every edges. And when you want to calculate the importance, actually this is for calculating importance of U. And you calculate importance based on the weight, this adjacent, and also plus the weight on itself, right? And the weight itself, this I'm trying to explain to you. And this weight on this U is depending on adjacent vertex. At the adjacent vertex, the weight on the adjacent vertex plus the weight UV. Because this weight will be changed based on the weight of each vertex, the adjacent vertex. So U is belong to adjacent of U. V is adjacent of U. And such that, so you see if they only have one, this one, right? If this is the U, this is the V. And such that you just need to use this one. You can calculate based on if you know the WV, then you can calculate the weight for WU, right? Can you see that? And such that if that is the central vertex, in that case corresponding to what you have the W plus lambda of this one. Let's go to another paper. I'm trying to explain what is this TS corresponding to. Well, especially I want to explain it is what is this SU corresponding to. Because this one this one you can see here, because just as what we discussed recursion, this do have recursion here. W, be aware of that. W, this W we never have in the given problem formulation. We only have this one. We do not have this one. This one you have to calculate that. Can you see that? So in this paper, they assume if it's leaf loads, right? In this case, we do not have leaf loads. So if, for example, this is leaf loads, right? So they treat the leaf loads as the W weight on the loads, not on the edges. And if this is the, let's say this is the U10, right? This U10. So W on the loads, not W on the edges. W on the edges, we already know. This is we use. But the W on the weight corresponding to the importance of this vortex. If it's leaf loads, they think about it's not so important. They initialize to be 0. Then in that case, you use this weight to calculate this weight, the vortex weight. Check the importance of this vortex. And you have this weight here, right? So the whole thing here is calculate the importance of vortex. This procedure corresponding to, if you go to that paper, you will see the procedure here, it is first initialize the weight U if U is leaf. And this is WU equal to 0 if U is leaf. And after that, delete this leaf. Delete leaf. delete all the leaf loads. Once you delete need loads, the weight what you have here added to this guy, right? In this picture, we only have one leaf. Let's say we have two leaves, right? So this is U11. When we delete all these leaves, this weight has been added down here. Can you see that? So this is use the W, use this formula. You can get the weight, for this guy. For this guy who connect with leaves, right? Delete the leaves, and then so after that it is we change the, or calculate, maybe calculate it will be better because initialized to be 0 in the very beginning, right? So this is kind of a propagate in the way from leaf to the central loads, and use this way to calculate central, importance or centrality of each vortex. Delete nodes, calculate. Oh, can notice right that? You calculate this algorithm. Calculate the weight. Let's say leaf loads here corresponding to a group of this kind of UL, right? Corresponding leaves, right? You have a different kind of this UL, and corresponding to adjacent UL. It's not less. So adjacent UL, you can imagine what we currently we do, right? So it's UL. So corresponding to calculate this weight here. Can you see? This leaf, you delete this one, you calculate this weight. And all the other weights, currently importance is undefined, right? So you use this way, well-defined leaf, importance, then you go to the next level, you make sure, this is the well-defined, then you delete this guy. You delete this guy, then you put a weight on the adjacent vortex. Can you see? You calculate this one, what do you use this guy, right? Let's say this is the formula, we want list different formula. Let's say this is which formula, we already have, let's say this is the formula. This is the formula 1. And this is the formula 2. This is the formula 3. This is the formula 4. This is the formula 5. So you by 5. Right? Use one, calculate adjacent vortex. And then you delete this vortex. Delete what we have is IDJ UL, and then repeat this procedure. And the idea here is you want to calculate the W for each this guy. You can imagine if you delete this one, right? Then when you delete this one, the weights on that will be added to this guy. Can you see? And then you use the, can you see? So delete this, yeah. Okay, good. Yes. Yes. Okay, so let's just give you a rough idea. Of course, this paper, they do one more task to refine the score. But it just give you the idea what is S from each graph. What is the importance of this graph? And also, so in this paper, they calculate the TS, right? And the TS score. So we go give you the 6 formula, and the TS score is equal to another parameter. Let's use the beta to represent. We want to separate as different parameter. This is beta, and the beta AUV. Okay, I don't like to use AUV because we already have AUV. So sequence similarity UV plus 1 minus beta. And so they have another one, which is the minimum S U S v, smaller v, right? Smaller v. Okay, and then so in this one, can you see that? So this is what they calculate QS. And the most important in this paper, you take a look. In this case, they double count this one. I hope take a look at the code. Check if they still, in this TS, they still use this one or not. If they do use it, this kind of, they put a very high weight on this guy. In this one, they are supposed to just use this one. Okay, take a look at this one. If they double use this one, no, there's some way you can do to propose your idea. You don't need to double count this one, because in this one, you already count for this sequence similarity, right? So this all, you can claim that in this form calculation, they emphasize, they put the higher weight on the sequence similarity. This is something you can claim, okay? You may don't want to totally, update that, but this is the, what is they do. It's clear? So in such that they already fill in based on this 6, right? Based on the formula they put here is A, right? The formula 3, they filled this matrix. They filled this matrix, right? Clear? So go to this step. In this step A, matrix, similarity matrix has been filled. Okay. And then after that, the step 2 corresponding to, based on this A, use A to find best alignment. Corresponding to, they want to make sure this is use the greedy algorithm, and the pickup, this each one, right, is U1, U2, and UN, this is V1 and VM. And they pick up the highest mapping corresponding to the best guy, best pair, they can map. So they pick up, and they pick up a best guy, use this best guy, for example, right? Use this best guy, and then based on this guy's guy, and to check the labels. And this guy, the labels of this guy is this 2. And the labels of this guy maybe go to this 3. And such that, and based on this one, they want to check what is the best alignment for the labels. So this is this idea. And then they propagate out. So this is the idea of this algorithm. And what they mention, the Hungarian algorithm corresponding to find the best matching. They want to find the best matching for these adjacent loads, the child loads. How these child loads could be mapped best, right? Because every this one, you can think about in this case, this each UI can be mapped to any V. But they want to map to the best, the V, right? And also maintain the relationship. So corresponding to the child loads from here, map to the child of loads here. But even the child loads, let's say here, right? Let me draw a picture. So, so let's say U is here, right? And V is here. And V, the child loads of V, is child loads of V, right? So let's use V1, V2, and maybe VK, right? And so all of this VK, which is belong to adjacent V, is adjacent labels. And U, which is directly mapped to, directly adjacent to U1, U2. So this one, maybe I use this term, maybe make you a little bit confused. So, and this is, what do you use U and U2? I would like to use the, so this is clear, not clear. Let's use N, NV, N, and NU. Okay. Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So in that case, they could have this all this kind of possibilities, right? Because ZU1 NU1, neighbor U1 can be mapped to this one. Map U1 can be mapped to this one. Map U can be mapped to this one, right? But finally, you need to find the best guy. You need to find the best guy to map. For example, this guy may be mapped to here. This guy mapped to here. Maybe this guy mapped to here, right? So you need to find the best one. So this is what the paper mentioned, Hungry algorithm. And also what they do it is they pick up the best one and then they do something, and after that it is they find it, they expanded this mapping A. They trying to find the A star, right? A star corresponding to best mapping, and this A star include all the UV best mappings, right? The best this kind of mappings, and so each iteration they find one or more pairs, and based on this iteration, it is starting from the best one, and then they use this Hangul and to exploit out to find another best this kind of mapping and put this best mapping in this list, and then so based on this already mapped, then continue to check who is the next grandchildren, and then they map it out until there's nothing is left in the M, what they talk about in the M. Okay, just in the nothing is remaining. This is what they mention. Okay, so I wonder this is enough or not enough. I think that's it. Yeah, this is the whole thing. And I'm sorry.